Indian community has been a source of inspiration for many authors of books, writers of articles, and makers of films and documentaries. Continuing in the same tradition is Hari Baskaran, who has come up with a book called These Bloomin Anglos, which is all about life in a particular locality in Madras called Raipuram. The title of the book, These Bloomin Anglos, is a very apt one because the community has bloomed and blossomed and somewhere down the line has even withered and faded. But the resilient community that they are, the book shows that they are becoming very popular in many parts of the world. They are retaining their identity, and this is what Hari has experienced in his lifetime in school amongst his close Anglo-Indian friends, and this is what he has written in this book, These Bloomin Anglos. We have with us Hari Baskaran, who is the author of the book These Bloomin Anglos. Hari, what inspired you to write this book?
Nikhil, thank you so much. It started in a very small way. After I had crossed the magic age of 60 and moved into the challenging age of 64, I had the strong feeling that I should get back to my roots. And the roots for me were my school, St. Mary's, Raipuram, the place where I had grown up, and the Anglo-Indian community, who were very much a part of my growing up years.
What was the starting point in this entire journey?
Strangely enough, Nikhil, when I started off, I wanted it to be a small project, and I initially thought I'd have it as a semi-fictional book based in Raipuram and centered around the Anglo-Indian community. But as I started talking to my friends and to a larger community of Anglo-Indians, I realized that there was a much bigger story. And I shifted away from just Raipuram and just a fictional book to telling the story of the Anglo-Indians at large. So that was the first major shift that took place, insofar as the book was concerned. And the other major tipping point was when I met a cousin of mine who is a very well-established author, and she asked me, "Why are you writing this book?" And as I mulled over this question, she offered an answer. And the answer she said was that, look, you should be writing the book so that over 1 million people can read and understand who the Anglo-Indian community are. And that was a real tipping point for me, because I suddenly saw that there was a bigger purpose for the book. And the way I went about preparing, therefore, was for this larger audience and for a larger purpose. It was no longer just about a little hobby of mine. It was now a project which was reaching out to the community and projecting the community in a way which I believed was correct.
Would you say that it has moved from being an autobiographical to a historical kind of a piece with a lot of historical facts thrown in? I mean, how would you describe the book now?
Yes. In fact, Nikhil, when I think it over, and this has been a journey of more than 4 years, so right through this journey, I've always been kind of trying to figure out what is going to be the structure of the book, what is going to be its tone, where is the pitch of the book. And I started realizing that if I wanted a large audience, then I should ensure that the book had a conversational style about it and not an academic style. And yet it should have a certain amount of depth. So there had to be a historic perspective, there had to be a certain amount of insights about the community, and it had to also challenge thinking on the part of the reader. So this was quite a balancing act that I had to do between history on the one hand, depth, and also keeping it conversational. It's been a fascinating journey. I've totally enjoyed actually this thing.
Which are all the places that you visited, and who are all the important people in the community that you met to collect all the data which is required for the book?
Yeah. Interesting question, Nikhil. And when you say places and people, for me it was the people first and then the places. So I never worried too much about have I got the entire geography. I was more interested in having the right balance of people. And obviously, therefore, there is a certain bias because you have association with the community which takes you to certain geographies. Examples being Royapuram, the people of Royapuram, Chennai, and then Bangalore, and so on. But nevertheless, I did manage to get a good spectrum of people across the country. Just to give you a feel of it, I went down to Kannur,
Yes.
which you are also familiar with. And Kannur was a cantonment town for the British. And within that town is this quaint place called Banashari today. And in the days of the Anglo-Indians, it was actually called Banshire. So like most of the towns in India today, Banshire, which was a stronghold of the Anglo-Indians, now has just about 3 or 4 families. And I did meet one person and who was very, very typical of the Anglo-Indian community, a very well-loved teacher. And she was the class teacher of Standard 5 in St. Michael's School, the same school that you had studied in. And you would surely remember Yvonne Gonzalez. Wonderful lady. It was such a pleasure talking to her and seeing the way she lived. Time has stood still for her. It's almost as if it was way back in 1960, the way she lived and the way she's living now.
Among the localities in Madras considered as strongholds of the Anglo-Indian community, Royapuram is one, and there are many others like Perambur and Pallavaram. Why did you base your entire book on Royapuram?
Well, Nikhil, to start with, that was the place I grew up in, and therefore there was a huge emotional connect with Royapuram. Not that there was no connect with the others, because when you studied in St. Mary's had people from all across Chennai. There were the Pallavaram boys, there were the Mount boys, there were the Perambur boys, and so on and so forth. So you did have people that you knew right across the country, right across the city of Chennai. But what I found was that in this book, I was attempting to bring out the dominant characteristics of the Anglo-Indian community, very much like any sociologist would do. If he defined a community, he looked at the dominant features of the community. And sociology also tells you that this is salient within the community. So if you had the right examples of people who were representatives of that dominant feature of the community, then you're likely to see similar things in other parts. So I was not overly concerned that I had to cover Perambur or to cover Pallavaram or any such place. As long as I had the right people and they represented that feature of the Anglo-Indian community that I wanted to show to readers, Anglo-Indian and non-Anglo-Indians, I was quite happy with that. But the truth of the matter is I met many people. This walk that I did to Velankani actually is part of the Pallavaram Walkers Association. So I joined the Pallavaram group and went for a walk. So I rubbed shoulders lying down on the platform with Pallavaram people, with the Perambur people, etc. And I've now got a huge set of friends now from all of these towns. I could easily have brought them in, but the thing is, would it add to the book? Would it showcase the community in a better way? If it wasn't, then I thought there was no point in just adding additional towns or additional people.
Hari has gone on record in the book that saying that he is an outsider looking within the Anglo-Indian community. Now Hari, how would you describe yourself as a person from outside? You've not been so associated with the community during your school days. So how do you now look within and explore the community?
I went through a lot of phases, Nikhil. And these phases actually started with association very tightly knit with the Anglo-Indian community in school. So you competed with them and you never bothered whether you were an Anglo-Indian or not an Anglo-Indian. I think at that point of time my psyche was Anglo-Indian because of the teachers, because of your friends, and you tended to be one of them. And nobody asked you whether you were an Anglo-Indian or not an Anglo-Indian. The school then had about 80% of the students as Anglo-Indians. I probably thought I was an Anglo-Indian at that point of time. But when I moved out of school, I went into an arena which was typically non-Anglo-Indian. And that's one of the times I got the first shock of my life, because I started hearing people saying things that were not friendly to the Anglo-Indian. And I must say at that point of time, I even kept a low profile about my Anglo-Indian background. The school which I loved, I wouldn't talk about it. Because everyone else was from other schools. But now, a long time later, when I really wish to connect with my roots, one of the first things I told myself was, I haven't done well by the Anglo-Indian community. I should have stood up for them. And if I have the opportunity now, I must do so now. Better late than never, you can say. And as I now talk to Anglo-Indians, I don't see them as Anglo-Indians. I see them as human beings. And that is what I try to portray in this book. Because the essence of being an Anglo-Indian is not to describe an Anglo-Indian. I think the essence of being an Anglo-Indian is to describe the life of these people, the warm-heartedness of the people, their love for life, the free style in which they have of living. These are the things that actually attract you to Anglo-Indians. It brought me closer again to the community which I had gone apart from. And I hope that people who read it, particularly non-Anglo-Indians, will say that this is not a community that we thought well of, but they sound very much like my brother or my sister, or my friendly neighborhood Spider-Man, if you want to call them so. It's been a lovely journey, and I've liked every bit of it, and I hope I've done justice to the community in the book.
Finally, what else would you like to talk about the book, about what the readers can expect?
Yes. Nikhil, as I spoke to a lot of Anglo-Indian friends and also people who were part and parcel of the literary community, and they were helping me put the book together, it took a long time to get the structure right. In fact, I spoke to you also about the structure, and we debated it at length before the structure got actually finalized. So I'm a little happy now with the structure, and so are the men who helped me. And this structure has come out in a way where it's easy to read. Most people today are telling me it takes just 3 or 4 days to finish the book. And most of them, thankfully, are doing it in 2 sittings. So they're going through the entire book without having to leave it and then forcibly come back to it. And I also feel that I've got the right balance of the historic or the heritage of the community, its historic background, and the life and times of current day Anglo-Indians. I think the balance is okay right now. It's up to the reader finally what they take out of. But you get a nice feeling about the work that you have done, and if you think that it's come out reasonably well from the dialogues you've had with people who are helping you put the book together, your friends who are reading it and giving you feedback and so on and so forth, and you feel good about it, then you think those 4 years were really well spent.
Thank you, Hari. Thank you so much.